Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to my qualifying report for the Hungarian Grand Prix, and what a crazy session that was. It has been a long time since we've seen a qualifying like that. Mixed conditions, times all over the place, surprise results, and some seriously impressive standout performers. But before we get on to any of that, let's start as we always do by having a look at our pole sitter. It was Lewis Hamilton who took, I have to say, a surprise pole position for tomorrow's race, and that was certainly evident in Toto Wolff's reaction. It's not a surprise in the sense that he did it in the rain, as we've all seen in the past how good he is on a wet track, but mainly because it looks set to be one of the Ferraris on pole position, particularly when you look back at the practice sessions. They looked in control. But it was the Mercedes who took pole position with a time of a 1:35.658, and eventually he ended up just over 2.5 tenths clear of his nearest challenger. What's even more intriguing for tomorrow's race is that in Q2, because it was wet, all the drivers set their fastest laps on the intermediate or wet tyres, and so everybody on the grid gets a free choice of the tyre they will start on for tomorrow's race. Let's have a look though at the rest of the race result, and it is an all Mercedes front row. If anybody had told me that before the start of qualifying, I would never have believed them. But Valtteri Bottas did end up just over 2.5 tenths behind his teammate. It's an all-Ferrari second row on the grid. Kimi Räikkönen, he out-qualified Sebastian Vettel. I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in just a moment. Carlos Sainz, absolutely brilliant. P5 for him. Again, I'll talk about him briefly towards the end of the video. Pierre Gasly and Toro Rosso, what a session. P6 for Gasly, P8 for Hartley, sandwiching Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. Now, there was a question mark over Verstappen's 7th place after the session after he was accused of impeding Romain Grosjean. Both drivers were summoned to the stewards and it was investigated, but they decided that they would take no further action, so Verstappen will start 7th tomorrow. Kevin Magnussen ended the session in 9th place for Haas with his teammate just behind him in 10th. Fernando Alonso starts 11th for McLaren, very frustrated over team radio, just got caught out by the conditions in the end. He was looking good up to that point. Daniel Ricciardo, I'm going to be talking about him in a moment as well. He could only manage P12, a real shock result. And Nico Hülkenberg as well in P13, out of position tomorrow. And if you look at Carlos Sainz, there's clearly pace in that car. Marcus Ericsson made it into Q2, he starts 14th tomorrow with Lance Stroll in 15th. The Canadian could possibly have done a little bit more, but he did end up spinning in Q2 and breaking his front wing, and that was pretty much it as the rain began to fall a lot heavier at that point. So a little bit of disappointment there. Stoffel Van Dorn out in Q1 once again. The pressure is just not lifting on him, and he's doing himself no favours at all. P16 tomorrow. Charles Leclerc only 17th, another one, a bit of a surprise. And also Force India as well. It's been a miserable week for them so far. I'm not going to cover that in this video because this is just the qualifying report. But Esteban Ocon only managed P18 with Sergio Perez in 19th. And Sergei Sirotkin rounds off the grid in P20. As you'll have seen there, it was a very frustrating session for Red Bull and in particular Daniel Ricciardo. Now, historically, this is very much a Red Bull track, and coming into this weekend, it was expected that they could well be the team to beat. However, Max Verstappen only managed to put his car in 7th, and teammate Daniel Ricciardo couldn't get any higher than 12th on the grid. A real surprise, particularly as well when you consider how good that team tend to be in the wet. When that rain began falling, I really did think Red Bull had a shot at a front row lockout. And at the time, it looked as though Red Bull had made maybe a mistake in terms of strategy or timing. And when doing the qualifying watch-along, some of you in chat were asking if there was a problem with the car. That's how much of a surprise it was. But speaking after the session, Danny Rick said that it was more about bad luck rather than bad strategy. I think it was more bad luck. In Q1, we took a risk on the soft. We should have gone on the ultra soft. Then Q2 and the rain came. The first guy on the track was getting the best track. We needed to get the first lap in and Stroll spun in front of that, so I had to abort that lap. We were just unlucky. It is, though, yet another race where we will see Daniel Ricciardo starting out of position, and as frustrating as that is, it does set us up for a very interesting race tomorrow and possibly a comeback. So although he isn't my one to watch, definitely keep a very close eye on him during the race tomorrow. Ferrari were another surprise really. After practice and the early stages of qualifying, it looked very likely that the Scuderia would take at least pole position, if not, lock out that front row. However, both drivers struggled in the wet, with them ending the session on the second row over half a second off the pace of the Mercedes. As you'd expect, both drivers spoke after the session, with Sebastian Vettel admitting and accepting that Ferrari are not as comfortable in the wet as their rivals. However, teammate Kimi Raikkonen did not agree and actually felt that his car was strong in the wet and that it was the traffic that cost him pole position. I was a bit unlucky. I changed to new tyres and there was not a lot of grip, but we got behind a Haas and with the spray it was impossible to see and improve. There was definitely the chance in these conditions today to be comfortably on pole, but it didn't happen. We had the speed today to be on pole and I was pleasantly surprised how nice the car was on wets. It definitely hasn't been our strongest point, so that was great. What is the most important thing and nice thing is the car was drivable and enjoyable in the wet. So some mixed reactions there really from both the Ferrari drivers after the session, but to be honest, looking at race pace in practice and where they are at the moment anyway, I still think Ferrari have got a great chance of winning tomorrow. Yes, of course, it's difficult to race around the Hungaroring, difficult to overtake, but if they play the strategy right, maybe start on the ultras, get a really good start, they start well anyway, they can take the fight to Mercedes. So it's second row, but this is not over by a long way. Before I get onto my one to watch, just a quick word on some of the standout performers today, starting with Toro Rosso. They took full advantage of the conditions and played it perfectly in terms of strategy and in terms of timing. That allowed, as you saw in the result there, Pierre Gasly to qualify a brilliant 6th and his teammate Brendan Hartley to end the session in P8. It's a much needed boost for the team as a whole, but also for Hartley, who really deserves a little bit of luck, and he definitely got some today. But that aside, it was very well deserved for both drivers. And it's going to be interesting to see tomorrow just what they can do in the race. You know, they're probably going to go backwards. We've got cars out of position. So it is going to be tough in some ways. But perhaps they can grab themselves a double points finish. They're going to need some luck. It is a big ask. But they've given themselves every chance of that tomorrow. And also very quickly, I have to have a word on Carlos Sainz. He was on it all session. And I have to say, he was right up there with Ferrari and Mercedes consistently through the session and totally deserves that P5. Absolutely brilliant from him. And again, a really great chance for Renault to pick up some big points in that fight for 4th. And as I get on to my one to watch, the rain has just started to fall outside and we've got a bit of a thunderstorm, so apologies if you can hear any of that. But do you know what? I'm going to go with Romain Grosjean this week. Yes, okay, there are some fast guys out of position, but so is Grosjean, and that Haas is quick. A lot of people are saying it's the best of the rest at the moment. But when you look back to Hockenheim, he had a great weekend in Germany, and he really does need to replicate that this weekend. He's got to try and get that pressure off his shoulder, so back-to-back good results and solid weekends are going to really help to do that. And a big result tomorrow will see him go into the summer break looking fairly good, actually. He is catching his teammate in terms of points and definitely starting to turn his season around, but he's got to find some momentum now. Looking back through his career, he's got okay form around Hungary and looked pretty decent through practice as well. So perhaps again with a little bit of clever strategy, if things go Haas's way, he might be able to grab himself a top 6 spot. That is it for the Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying report then, and now that the grid is set, who do you think will take victory tomorrow? What is your top 3 and who is your one to watch? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, I will be back live tomorrow at 1:30 PM UK time with the Hungarian Grand Prix race watch-along. And of course, we will also be live at 5 for the race debrief. In the meantime, though, don't forget you can follow me on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.